Welcome in. Today we're going to be talking about how to use these massage guns to stimulate weakened muscle as well as lengthen tighten muscle. So it's not just a simple massager. This is actually called percussive therapy, and what we do with these is you can not only wake up a muscle that's dormant, you can also relax a muscle that's become too inflamed or too tight. So many times that these can be used for just kind of massaging the body. I want to teach you how to use this in a way more detailed way, because this can actually help you with your squat form. This can help you relieve tension that's been stuck for years. These things are great. So I have some notes to make sure that I'm right along here, and I just want to break down a couple things for you, because if you've been thinking about getting one of these, it's very important to understand what it is and what you can do with it. Always understand the tool before you buy it. First things first, before I even get into it, this is the Theragun. This is the, much more expensive, much higher quality, very, very good gun here. This is, I believe they have a bunch of different products, so they can range from 300 to 400. They do have a smaller mini, which is a little bit more affordable, but these things are great. Now, this company actually owns the patent for the amplitude, the frequency, and the torque of this actual headpiece here. So this is the highest level, and then this is a little bit lower of a level. Now, if you've ever felt this before, it is incredible, but the speed that it goes, the pressure that it puts into your body, that is actually patented by Therabody, or Theragun. Therabody, I believe, is their company name now. So nobody else can copy that or mimic that, so it's very hard to duplicate this feeling. Years before I knew about, or before I could afford a Theragun, I got this Opov gun. This Opov was, I think, $100 on Amazon, and it's the M3 Pro. This one, it has 3 different levels. It's not as intense, but even if you take it up to the 3rd level, yeah, 3rd level, honestly, is close to the 1st level on the Theragun. And you go to the 2nd level on the Theragun, it's a whole different thing. I can't really mimic that at all. But no matter which one you get, it's important to understand how to use it, because even with this one, you can do exactly what you need. You don't necessarily need the specific pressure of the Theragun. They just believe that theirs is the best. So ultimately, what is percussive therapy? And it's a deep muscle treatment. It's using rapid and long vertical strokes into the muscle tissue, causing a neuromuscular response. That neuromuscular response is basically talking about the path from the muscle to the brain and what communication is happening there. So some of the benefits: reduces pain, increases blood flow, breaks up scar tissue, decreases lactic acid, releases muscle spasms, increases your lymphatic flow, makes recovery more efficient and effective, mainly because of that circulation. It improves range of motion, and it improves body awareness. So when you're trying to do certain movements and like certain exercises like a squat, if certain muscles that help you do that squat are not strong, or they've been weakened over time, or you just can't activate them as well, this can actually help stimulate that connection, which is pretty cool. One thing to think about is, like, should you do it before training, during training, or post training? Now, if you're getting ready to do it for training, it's best to do 30 seconds per muscle group, because the key here is 30 seconds versus 2 minutes. So if you're doing 30 seconds, this is going to stimulate the muscle. It's going to wake the muscle up. If you're doing it for 2 minutes or more, that is actually going to relax the muscle. So sometimes if you see people doing it, holding on one spot for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, whatever it is, you see them in the gym, that is completely relaxing the muscle. So that's the last thing you want to do if you're getting ready to exercise. That makes sense, right? Just like we don't do long static stretches before you do any intense exercising. Same exact thing. What it's going to do is it's going to wake up that muscle, increase your muscle coordination, enhance your mobility, and that's at least what the focus is pre-workout. Now, let's say you're in the middle of the workout. This is something where you're going to take it down even more, 15 seconds. So basically it's just a quick jolt of energy into the muscle if for some reason there's a need for promoting recovery, or if there's a muscle that's inhibited and is not waking and not activating. You can also increase the blood flow and circulation by doing that. So I don't normally see it intra-game, like in the middle of the sport. But if you're in a situation where a muscle is dormant or you need to stimulate and excite the muscle, you can just go ahead and place the gun in there and vibrate for 30 seconds or less. We're recommending here in between your workout 15 seconds. Now post-workout is completely different, because post-workout we're looking to completely relax the muscle. Our goals post-workout, of course, are to eliminate any adhesions that are there. So sometimes that takes some time, relieve pain, and again boost that circulation to get fresh blood flow in there. That's going to be your 2 minutes or plus. So remember, pre-workout is 30 seconds. Intro workout is like a 15-second hit if you need to, and then post-workout is going to be 2 minutes or more, 2 to 3 minutes at the max. You don't want to go any more than 3, because you are going to need that muscle to get you back to your car, or to go back up the steps, or to sit at the dinner table. So we're not completely relaxing everything. We just want to go from 2 to maximum 3 minutes. So before we get into actually using it, just going to talk about some of the common faults real quick. Sometimes you can be applying too much pressure. Now the challenge with the pressure is if you're pushing into it with the gun, or pushing into the gun, you're actually changing the pressure that the gun is actually putting onto the muscle. So all you have to do with these instruments here is they're actually weighted, so that all you have to do is just hold them in position wherever you are working. You don't have to actually push into the muscle. This one, if you're used to a Theragun, this one you're going to feel like you have to push, but again, it's the same situation. You're not pushing into the muscle. You just want to let the weight of the gun do the trick. Next is moving too fast. This is going to be where you're on a specific muscle group and you're just moving way too fast trying to get through the entire muscle. You want to just focus on one spot. Another fault is spending too much time on an area pre-workout. Remember, when you go too long, when you go 2 minutes or more, that's going to relax the muscle. But if you're getting ready to do an activity, you don't want to spend too much time relaxing that muscle. Even if it is a tight muscle, we may want to lengthen it and loosen it a little bit, but we don't want to completely relax it. A lot of times grip is also an issue. So when it comes to these, you want to make sure that you do have a firm grip and that you're not in any way bending your joints to have to hold the gun. So I wouldn't want to just be dangling here. I want to actually, I like to, when it comes to my leg, I like to use both hands, especially if it's really moving. And even sometimes in the chest, you can hold the base of it as well as the top to make sure that it's secure. You don't want this thing kind of moving all over the place. So too many times, once it really starts going, it can cause pressure in your wrist, elbow, or shoulder, depending on where and how you're using it. So just make sure you have really good grip. Also, a lot of people will go straight to the tender areas. Some of the most tender areas in the body are going to be the inner thigh, as well as also up in this triangular area here, or in the throat region, or the back of the neck. You never want to be working on those areas just because they're so tender. This is also including the lower back area, because there are organs back there. If you're putting too much pressure into your lower back, you can actually cause bleeding in the kidneys, and that will cause you or the person that you're working on to actually urinate blood. So we want to make sure that we're not putting too much pressure into the kidneys. Now that's talking your lower back. There are also other areas where the organs are exposed, like for example this small center here, and then also throughout the abdominals. So we do not recommend using the Theragun and vibrational tool through this entire core region, just because, and even the back as well, just because there's too many organs at risk. So let's go ahead and try this thing out. So I want to be able to give you the rest of the tips by actually showing you how to use it. So I'm going to start with the quads here, just because it's the easiest thing to show. Now, you never want to try to stretch, massage, or percuss a muscle that is already stretched. So here in this case, the quad goes over top of the knee, which means that the quad is stretched. Now to activate the quad, I would do that. What I want to do is get this activation, but with a completely relaxed quad. So I'm just going to place it up on top. You can place the leg just out in front of you if you're sitting on the floor, or of course you can prop your foot up on something if you're sitting in a chair. But the purpose of this here is now this muscle is completely loose. Now you may be doing that and you may not see any movement because the muscle's so tight. That's okay though, we're gonna work with that. Now, if you're in a position where, like for example, your squats and it's really difficult to bend your knees, or if your knees are really tight because your quads are so tight, what you're gonna do is use the 2 minute of this, right? Remember, we've got 30 seconds or 2 minutes. 30 seconds is to stimulate and excite a muscle, whereas the 2 minutes is to relax. So we're gonna spend time relaxing the quad. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on here. And just for sound, because it's pretty loud, we'll turn it down to level 1 here. Remember, it goes up again. So I'm just letting this thing hang here. Now, depending on how long I'm doing it, I may even just hold it like so, just to completely protect my shoulders and make sure that my joint's not at risk. But what I'm doing here is, when it comes to the quads, you see sometimes people will go like this, right? The reason that doesn't help is because every part is getting like a split second. But the most effective way to use these things is if you are going for the 30 seconds or the 2 minutes. So when you think about the quads, just remember there's 4 muscles there. You've got one up in the top here. Then you have 2 on the bottom sides, and then another one that goes up. It's a little bit longer. What we're gonna do is focus on just working with the top 3 here. So I'm gonna first start with 2 minutes in this upper half of my quad. And this is just gonna be like, and this could be pre-workout, this can be post-workout. Let's say that you're getting ready to work out and you want your squats to be nice and loose. You want to first release those quads, make sure that they are lengthened, and then I'm going to show you what we're going to do with the calves to help them flex better. So we've been about 2 minutes there. I'm going to move to this side here. Now, you don't want to go right onto that IT band because that is going to be painful. If you were to just flex your quad, you might be able to see that muscle there. When it comes to the muscle belly, you just want to place that gun right into the middle of the muscle. When you're working a specific muscle, you can move a little bit. But the main thing is you want that muscle receiving the percussion for the entire 2 minutes. Now again, if this was a dormant muscle, that would be our 30 seconds. So let's think about while this is going, what would a dormant muscle be? So if you're sitting all day, it's the muscles that you're not using and that are just being turned into cushions. So that's going to be your glutes, right? Because you're sitting on top of them. That's also going to be your hamstrings because you're just sitting on top of them. However, the muscles of your quads and the muscles of your calves are just not moving at all. And what's going to happen is they're going to get tight. And so we need to lengthen them. So by doing this here, we're creating a stimulation in the muscle, releasing any adhesions that might be there, which should give us more flexibility. After that 2 minutes, of course, then you're gonna come onto the inside here. Now this one can be a little bit more sensitive depending on, when you were working your last muscle group. I just hit legs today, so it's an interesting day to choose to record. But as I'm going through this part of the quad, I'm noticing it move a little bit, it flexes a little bit. If you're pushing into the muscle too much and the muscle starts like flexing up, like you start squeezing it up, that means it's just too much pressure. The last thing we want to do is relax the muscle and then force it to completely flex and lock up. So this is again going to be 2 minutes on this side. You can kind of, again, work around this muscle a little bit. So there's nothing wrong with moving around on a muscle, but the quads are made up of 4 different muscles. So you can't just be doing this. It might feel good, but it's not going to actually have an impact. So there's 2 minutes done in each section. Now pause the video if you're going through this and watching this and going along with it, but we're now going to move our way down into the calves. Because a lot of times also when you're sitting, the ankle just does not flex any longer. So when you do a squat, you need to be able to do what we call dorsiflex the foot. When you're going down, your ankle really needs to be flexible. So if you're not able to get down into your squat, let's say when you're going into your squat, maybe your heels come up. Or if you're going down into your squat and your knees come together and the outside of your feet kind of splay up. that could be a direct response from tight calves. So what we're gonna do is spend the 2 minutes releasing the calf muscles and then the 30 seconds to the opposite muscle so that we can stimulate and wake that up. So this muscle here is the muscle that pulls your foot up, but because it's very rarely used, it becomes a weak muscle. So what we'll do is we're just gonna spend 30 seconds on this muscle. Now what's important with this muscle is the bone of your lower leg is like right there. So you don't want to come over too far to the point where you're hitting the bone. It's very painful. So instead, just make sure that you're in the muscle. If you're ever curious of how to get to the muscle, just feel for your bone. And then going out to the outside of the body always, you'll feel that muscle. So 30 seconds on the muscle to stimulate and awaken the muscle. Remember, this is going to help flex that foot and pull this up. I would say 90% of people need to do this before squats. So now from here, what we're going to do is go to the opposite side. So I'm going to work through the calves. Now, my calves are sore because of working them just this morning. So when your calves are sore and you're like fresh after a workout, you know, it's really important to do this here for about 2 minutes just because it's going to help loosen that muscle up. And when you have tight calves, it's going to affect many different things. Think about it, you got to use your calves all the time, walking up and down steps. You know, if you also are looking to lose weight and you have a lot of excess weight right now, your calves are working a lot to keep you stable, balanced, and moved. So tight calves is on a regular, but I'm telling you, if you're trying to lose weight, there's a good chance that your calves are tight. And just by losing some weight, you're gonna help that pressure. And now, of course, there's another video in here. It's the plantar fasciitis video. That one I go over calf stretches and how to release the muscles of the calves. This is, like if you're in the gym getting ready to go, this is a way to do it real quick. I do recommend still doing the stretches, the manual therapy, and if you were to add this in, it would be incredible. But for most people, you're spending 2 minutes on the calves to completely relax that muscle, and then you're spending 30 seconds on the front there, that's the tibialis anterior. And again, remember, who's our group that needs to do it the most? If when you're squatting and your heels come up, it's gonna be because your calves are tight. So we need to get in here, loosen up these calves, spend a good 2 minutes on them. 30 seconds on the opposite side, and then go ahead and stretch. It's one of the best ways to warm your muscles up. Notice here when it comes to the calves, I'm not coming all the way down here, doing all this extra stuff. I'm just going right into the muscle so that the belly of the muscle, the main meat of the muscle, is getting all the work. So far we've gone through the quads, we've gone through the calves, and this front muscle here, the tibialis anterior. Now remember, every muscle has an opposing muscle. So when we were working the calves, we were also talking about the tibialis anterior. When we were working the quads, we were also talking about the hamstrings underneath. Now notice I mentioned when you squat, if sometimes your knees cave in or your heels come up, it can refer to tight calves. Another thing that would pull your knees together would be the muscles on the inside of the thigh being too tight. That happens to so many people just because we all sit. So if you're in a seated position for too long, these muscles don't get stretched. That also means that the muscles that pull your leg out, which are in your glutes, they're gonna get weak. Does that make sense? So one gets tight because it's just being held too close. The other one gets weak because it's not doing its job of pulling out. So that's gonna bring in the 2 minute and 30 second again. So that means if you think about it, remember, tight muscles get 2 minutes and then weak muscles get 30 seconds. So that means I'm gonna spend 2 minutes on this inner thigh and then 30 seconds on the glutes. So let's look at this 2 minutes real quick. Right into the inner thigh. I'm not going too high into the groin. I'm just looking for a good spot that gets right into the belly of that muscle. And the goal here again is for 2 minutes. So now I'm up, and the exact opposite is going to be that glute that opens that leg out to the side, right? So we already were addressing the inside of the leg. Let's go ahead and address the glute. So it's very important when we do the glute. Try to turn so you can see it here. Now my hip bone is up here, so I'm not going up into my hip bone. Instead, I'm staying right below. I'm not having to push with my hand. All I have to do is just use the weight of the gun to go right into the glutes. Now I'm doing this standing just so it's easy for you to see. It would be best if you're laying flat because then the leg's not working. But what you can't see, you may be able to see, I'm actually on the toes of this. That's why this knee's bent. So I'm barely using this leg at all. I'm putting all my weight into my other leg so that way this glute can just be completely relaxed. And we'll call that 30 seconds. So remember, if you're somebody whose knees are caving inwards when you're doing your squat, or your heels are coming up when you're doing your squat, those are the moves that I want you to hit. I want you to hit the inner thigh for 2 minutes, the outer glutes for 30 seconds. I'm gonna have you hit the quads for 2 minutes, the hamstrings for 30 seconds. Then I'm gonna have you hit the calves for 2 minutes and that tibialis anterior for 30 seconds. Now, of course, I'll remind you this, and if I sent you to this video, I just want you to practice it out and make sure that you get in touch with me to make sure that it's understood. So let's go ahead and talk about what you would do for the pecs and the delts. Now, many of us are in a situation where we're rounding forward because we're typing at a computer, we're driving a car, or we just are doing something in front of the body. So many people do what we call protraction. That's when those shoulders come inward and we kind of round our back excessively. So remember what we've talked about in this video so far. 2 minutes would lengthen tightened muscles, and 30 seconds would stimulate weakened muscles. So if I'm rounding forward, that means that the muscles in front of my body are tightened. And that means the muscles in the back have become weakened because they've been lengthened. Does that make sense? So what I'm gonna do is spend the 2 minutes in the front because I want to relax those muscles. And then I would spend the 30 seconds in the traps or the back of the shoulder to stimulate those muscles. So to talk about where you're going to do it for the chest, it's important to remember that the bone in the center of your chest here is your sternum, and you do not want to put pressure right onto that bone. So instead, before you do it, feel around for the soft muscle tissue. That's where you're going to use it. You never want to come above your collarbone. You certainly don't want to hit your collarbone. You don't want to hit your sternum, and then you don't want to hit this shoulder blade all the way up top in the corner here. Your goal is just not to ever do this on bone. So from here, I'm just going to be working through the pecs, nice and smooth and slow. Again, find yourself a spot that feels like you're kind of getting the whole muscle to vibrate, and then just hold. You're just going to be holding here for 2 minutes. I've seen some people stretch the muscle while you're doing it. You can, but again, in this situation, less is more. So just place that on there, just hold. You can move a little bit throughout the pec as you're going. You can hold it like so, of course, so that way you're getting less work on the shoulder there. The main thing here is that you're not hitting any bone. So that's 2 minutes there. Then we're gonna go to the front of the shoulder because the front of the shoulder gets tight as well. So this is 2 minutes on the front of the delt. Because you're doing 2 minutes, you're probably gonna wanna hold it with both hands. The main thing is that you're not drilling into any of those bones. I don't know how many times I gotta say it, but let's make sure that we're only focused on muscle tissue and everything that's in front of the body so that way you can help open that up. Always remember, when it comes to the pecs or the delts, that's going to be 2 minutes. Now again, if you're getting ready to work out and you're not in a situation where things are really tight, or you don't need to loosen and lengthen them up, then you're just doing 30 seconds. You're just going to go all through the pec here, 30 seconds. Again, you can move a little bit, you're just not going from muscle to muscle. Always just focus on one muscle at a time. After that, quick 30 seconds. You could even do 30 seconds into the tricep. You could do 30 seconds into the biceps. You could also use this for the forearms. Just very important, don't hit that bone, right? Very good stuff. If you have carpal tunnel, that would be tight muscles. So you would do this in your forearm muscles for 2 minutes. So you kind of see the difference here. The biggest thing that I want you to understand with this is 2 minutes relaxes a muscle and 30 seconds will stimulate a muscle. And then the most important stuff is what not to hit is you're not going to hit bone, you're not going to hit areas that have your organs exposed, which is all throughout here. You're not going to go into your throat in any way. You're not going to go through the back of the head or to the back of the neck. Even though it might feel good temporarily, that pain is being referred from somewhere else, and it's better to understand where it's coming from instead of trying to supplement with this here. Well, I hope that that helped. That is a quick little tutorial of how to use these Theraguns. For those of you who are trying to improve your squat form, rewind a couple times to make sure that you understand what it is to do in your lower body, as well as for those who have tight pecs and shoulders, if you're crouching over a computer or whatever, make sure that you rewind it and use this here. These things are great. The last little bit that I'll say is I got these off of Amazon. Again, Theragun. I'll put the links below this video here, but you don't have to get the most expensive version. Obviously, this is going to be the best one. It feels incredible. It's great. But if you are strapped for cash, you can get one of the other ones. There's Gimbal out there. There's OPOV. There's a number of them. I shouldn't have started naming companies because I don't really know all of them. But you can get these things I've even seen for 60, 70 bucks online. The main goal is for you to understand how to use it. So thanks for your attention. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.